Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Milwaukee. For some of us, this is a home game, so we're glad to welcome you all here. Secretary Radu, will you please call the roll?
Regent Bartel.
Here.
Regent Bradley.
Here.
Regent Crane. Here. Regent Danae Davis.
Here.
Regent Stan Davis.
Here.
Regent Drew.
Here.
Regent Evers. Regent Salvo.
Here.
Regent Loftus. Regent Menedee.
Here.
Regent Pruitt.
Here.
Regent Smith.
Here. I'm sorry. Here.
Regent Spector.
Here.
Regent Vasquez.
Here.
Regent Walsh.
Here.
Regent Wingate.
Here. Yeah, that's it.
Regent Womack. Here. The quorum is present.
Thank you. Once again, good morning and welcome to UW-Milwaukee. I'd like to thank our host, Chancellor Michael Lovell and his staff for hosting our meetings here. For our first agenda item, I want to turn to Chancellor Lovell, who has entitled his presentation, Powerful Ideas, Producing Proven Results with Our Community Partners. Chancellor Lovell, thank you.
Thank you. And I want to welcome everybody to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And it was interesting, when I interviewed here, I remember I was getting a tour from one of the students, and they said, if you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes. And for those of us who braved the Brewer game last night with the closed roof, this morning was quite a change for us. As the chancellors at UWM in the past, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk about some of the things that are happening at UWM, which is, of course, the second largest university in the UW system. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to bring you up to date on some of the progress we've made in the last year. And then we want to help talk about going forward in our future, particularly with some of our strongest partners in the region who are seated behind me that are going to be doing some discussion on some of the things we're doing together, which we're very excited about. As it turns out, a year ago, I was seated in the audience for the June Regents meeting, and I was thinking, when preparing my talk, what a difference a year makes. I've really been blessed in many ways, and I was very grateful to be named the 8th Chancellor at UWM just about a month ago. And one of the nice things about becoming Chancellor, certainly during the interim of the last 7 months, I've gotten to know the campus in a much different way than I was able to get to know it as Dean of Engineering. And I take great pride in UWM, of getting to know what's going on our campus. And particularly, I take great pride in the people on this campus because they are doing fabulous things. And it was interesting as we were going through our budget preparation and preparing for the cuts, so we're going through the budget now. Some of our faculty made me aware of a report that the Goldwater Institute put together and talked about. The title of the report was Administrative Bloat at American Universities, the Real Reason for High Cost in Higher Education. And we all knew that our campus was very efficient and very lean, and this report really highlighted how lean of our campus and how we're really doing great things with minimal resources. The report by the Goldwater Institute highlighted the costs of things at the 198 leading research universities from across the country. And in the report, UWM stacked up very well in terms of our performance, in terms of we were the 12th least in spending per student of the 198 research universities. We spend $13,000 per student at UWM when the national average is more than $41,000. In terms of instructional research and support staff per student, we are also 12th lowest in the country. We have 3.5 full-time instructional research and service employees per 100 students, and we were half of the national average of 7 employees per 100 students. The report also showed that we were 14th in terms of administration staff per 100 students. We have 3.6 full-time administrators per 100 students, when the national average is 9.4 per 100 students. Now, in spite of how lean we are, particularly over the last decade, it's amazing what this campus has been able to accomplish. Over the last decade, our enrollment has increased 27%. In 2000, our enrollment was 23,000 students. Last year, we had 30,500 students enrolled on our campus. So essentially, over the last decade, we've grown as much as the size of UW Green Bay. In addition to increased enrollments, we're very proud of the fact that over this past decade, we've had a 37% increase in the number of students we're graduating per year. In 2000, we graduated 3,700 students. This past year, we graduated more than 5,100 students. And one of the great things about our growth is we've actually increased the diversity of the population of this campus. In fall 2010, our student body was more than 20% students of color. We had 4% of our students from military dependents. That's 1,200 students on our campus, which is the largest in the UW system, more military veterans or dependents of military veterans. We've got a 3% population of international students, which is about almost 1,000 students are international on our campus. And we're very excited about the fact that we continue to increase the diversity of our campus. Our freshman class coming in this year is 25% students of color, which is extremely exciting for us. Almost 1/4 of our students will be projected in the next 3 or 4 years to be students of color on this campus. Now, we've grown in a lot of different ways. Again, we're very entrepreneurial. We're a very innovative campus. So one of the ways we've grown is by more online students. We have about 6,600 students have taken at least one course fully online that are enrolled on our campus. And we have 1,500 students that are enrolled exclusively on online courses. Now, I talked a little bit about the growth of our students and our student body. We also have exceptional growth in our research over the last decade. And again, you know it's very hard to grow and change when you're a lean campus, but I'm very proud of the fact that our research has increased 224% over the last 10 years. And if you look back in 2000, we were doing just a little bit over $20 million of research. This year, projected to be up over $75 million in research, which is a phenomenal gain over such a short period of time. You know, and I'm an engineer, and I look at the direction you're heading, and I'm really excited that we're not only increasing our research. And you know, if we continue on this path for the next 5 to 10 years, we should be up around $200 million in research on our campus. Now, with significant growth in our students and research, now more than ever, we know that to maintain the growth and the path that we're on, we need an investment in some new resources, including new capital projects. To that end, UWM began a master plan back in the fall of 2008. And this master plan was completed over a period of about 20 months, and it involved more than 200 meetings with campus and community constituents. The process translated UWM's values and aspirations, into where we were going as a campus. And it really helped establish a vision for the future of UWM's presence, not only on this Kenwood site, but in the greater Milwaukee and in southeastern Wisconsin. Now, the master plan helped define our future, and to be honest with you, as I stand here today, in spite of all the budgetary worries we have, the future is looking very bright for UWM. Just to give you a perspective, in the last 22 years, our campus has completed $320 million in capital projects. This year alone, we have more than $300 million in capital projects under development, one phase or another. So in this year alone, we're almost doing as much as we've done in the past 22 years, which is just really remarkable. And we certainly appreciate the investment that both the Board of Regents and the state is making into our campus. Now, the capital projects are only part of the story. Yes, we know the buildings themselves are important, but we know what goes on in those buildings is even more important, and we must have strong academic programs and partners, particularly in these lean financial times, to help us move forward. So this morning, we thought it was very appropriate to bring some of our partners that we're working with to make some of our academic and research programs strong to the table to talk about how we're interacting with them. I'd like to begin, as all of you know, we have 2 new schools have come online in the past 2 years, and the first is the School of Public Health. We're very excited that we have a new facility for the School of Public Health. We are renovating a 33,000 square foot, 5-story building on the Pabst Brewery site, which is located downtown. The design of this building is currently underway. As a matter of fact, they've already been in and been clearing out the building. And we expect to have occupancy a little over a year from now, sometime in the late summer 2012. Now, the School of Public Health did not come to this campus easily, and I know that some of you may remember our first community partner we're going to ask to speak spoke to this group back in 2005. And even though I was not there, I was told this individual made a very deeply passionate speech in support of the School of Public Health here in Milwaukee. He talked about how healthcare challenges posed by Milwaukee required a School of Public Health to be located in Milwaukee, particularly located in downtown Milwaukee, where clinics could be sited where they are needed the most in our inner city. And we are very grateful for the support that he gave us and to help launch our School of Public Health, not only then, but now as we move forward in the site. In particular, I want to mention in the building which I just showed, the city's health department is going to be co-located with our faculty to help build partnerships and making sure we're making the maximum impact and having the opportunities we have to do research within our campus. So I'd like all of you to please help me welcome Mayor Tom Barrett.
Thank you very much, Chancellor, and welcome all of you to Milwaukee. I haven't been as excited to be in this room since I was here 20 years ago next month, because this is the room where my wife and I had our wedding reception, in this very room. So it's good to be back here. I've been back here many times since, but it's fun to be here with the Board of Regents, and I welcome all of you. Speaking of marriages, I think all marriages have their ups and their downs, and I know the last several months have been particularly difficult for your partnership. And with all the things that are going on right now in Madison and the tensions that are being put on the university system, both in terms of governance and in terms of resources, you've got your work cut out for you. And I just want you to know the people in the state want you to succeed, because you represent our future in terms of our children and our dreams and aspirations. And so it's important that even though we're in difficult times right now, that you persevere and do what you can to make sure that this system is a system that everybody in this state can be proud of, and can be proud of every single campus. So again, I'm with you on that. As Chancellor Lovell said, it was 6 years ago that I appeared before you and talked about our health needs here in the city of Milwaukee. And as the Chancellor said, I did make a passionate appeal at that time because of the concerns that we have here in this city, the healthcare concerns, and my strongly held belief that we had to have a strong public health presence right here in the city of Milwaukee. I was, in a sense, unsuccessful that day, but all's well that ends well. And not only are we now moving forward with the School of Public Health here in the city of Milwaukee, I'm also proud to report to you that we have developed a very, very strong relationship with the University of Wisconsin Medical School and Public Health on one of the issues that I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about, because this effort is one that I think everyone in this state should be cognizant of and be committed to. And it is a public health issue, and it's the issue of infant mortality. Because in this city, you should know that our infant mortality rate is 6.4 per 1,000 for Caucasian babies. For Hispanic babies, it is 7.4%. For African American babies, our mortality rate is 15.7%. So there is a 2.5 times disparity between Caucasian babies and African American babies. That is a public health crisis. And that is an issue that calls on all of us to do everything we can to provide the resources, to provide the education, to provide the direct care, to provide the research, so that we can lower the infant mortality rate that we see in some of the zip codes, in some of the neighborhoods in this city that surpass, sadly, third world countries. That's the situation we're dealing with. That alone is one of the reasons that I feel so passionately about the need for a public health presence here in the city of Milwaukee. But there are other issues as well. I am pleased to report to you that we have made progress through our partnership with the United Way in reducing the teen pregnancy rate in this city, an issue that I consider a sibling or cousin to the issue of infant mortality, because in many regards those issues are intertwined. But sexually transmitted diseases, diabetes, asthma are all important issues that this School of Public Health will assist this community in addressing. Back in the 1930s and the 1940s, Milwaukee routinely, on an annual basis, was winning awards as the healthiest city in America. And sadly, that has changed over the last 70 years. And now many of our public health indicators show that we need to do more. And that's why I am so thankful for the leadership that the Chancellor has provided. I'm so thankful to the support that you have provided us. And I want you to know that the City of Milwaukee will be a partner in this. And just this morning I was talking to Commissioner Baker, our Health Commissioner, about our plans to have people co-located there so that we can have a true town-gown experience where the issues that are being done in terms of research by the university can use as its laboratory the actual people that live in the vicinity. So to me, this is an excellent example of the university and the community coming together in a very, very positive way. If you haven't had a chance, I invite all of you before you leave town to take a trip over to the Pabst site, and you'll get a real glimpse of what we're trying to do there, because this is a part of town that 6 years ago, the way I describe it, even the bad guys didn't go to, because there was no reason to go there. There was no reason whatsoever. And now we are seeing an injection of investment in this area, just adjacent, just west of downtown, that will allow us, I think, to really bring resources and health care to the people who live in the surrounding neighborhoods. So I wanted to be here to tell you just how important this is to our city. I want to tell you how proud we are to be Chancellor Lovell's partner and the partner of the School of Public Health, and that this could not have been done without your help. So it's something that, again, I feel very, very passionately about, but want you to know that I view this as something that all of us can take credit for, but we have a lot more work to do. In addition to that, then I know that Rich Muson's going to talk about that. We're very excited about the School of Freshwater Sciences as well on the south side. And both of these schools, we believe, are going to provide an impetus and create hope in communities. The School of Freshwater Sciences obviously is geared much more to economic growth, which is so important to this community. But these two schools together are really going to be a launching pad, I believe, for even more great things for the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. So again, I thank you all for being here and look forward to working with you for many, many years to come. Thanks again.
Well, thank you very much. And you're going to see the theme here of partnership. And one thing I've learned over my career is that when you partner with others, particularly when you have your missions that are aligning, the pie gets bigger and nothing but good things happen. And so I think our partnership with the city as we go forward, not just with public health, School of Freshwater Science, I think there's many other areas that we'll be working together with the city. The second project I want to talk to you about in the second area is something we call the Kenwood Integrative Research Complex. And we are extremely excited about this project on our campus. It is going to be a $75 million showcase facility that will truly be a new gateway to our campus. We have not built a new academic building on this campus in more than a decade. And this building is going to be located just west of here on the corner of Kenwood and Maryland Avenues. And we are really looking at it to be the new entranceway for our campus. Construction for this project will start in December of 2012. And we expect occupancy very early in 2015. And the reason why this building is so important for our campus is it is going to address critical needs for more research and academic teaching space, really in our STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We're going to have 150,000 square feet of new facilities that are going to be state-of-the-art. They will include research labs, core shared research facilities, instructional and state-of-the-art collaborative space, and really office support space, particularly for our physics department, which is in dire need of a new location. Now, thinking about science and engineering and directions we're going, I met with our next partner, which we're going to talk about things that we're doing in these areas. My second day as engineering dean here at UWM, and the reason why I met with him with my second day is I recognized I had come from Pittsburgh, where I had done a lot of work in the energy field, and I recognized that one of the world leaders in energy technology was located right here in Wisconsin, in this Johnson Controls. And I spoke with him on my second day, and we started to develop what I consider to be the ideal partnership, or what we want to be trying to accomplish with our partners across the region. We started out doing some very simple things, some academic classes and coursework in areas that were of interest to them. I moved on to some student projects, to full-scale research projects. And as you're going to hear from our partners, Tom Watson and Michael Andrew, I believe Michael's going to be presenting, we are now co-locating facilities, building facilities together, and really doing some substantial work. Because the end goal for us is to make Milwaukee the world leader in energy storage devices and batteries. And I think we both recognize that neither one of us are big enough to do that, but by partnering together, we will have the opportunity to compete for the federal funds, particularly out of the Department of Energy. So I'd now like to bring up Mike Andrew from Johnson Controls to talk about our partnership.
Thank you, Chancellor Lovell. Before I start with my formal comments, I would just like to introduce my boss, Tom Watson. He is our Vice President of R&D at our Power Solutions business at Johnson Controls. So just a couple of weeks ago, I celebrated my 55th birthday, and I was reminded by something that my daughter said about science is all about facts and the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. I'd been doing some work outside, and I came in with outdoor clothing on, a t-shirt and shorts and so on, and I was thinking about, for 55, not doing too bad here, reasonably good health, I should be a happy fellow. And she looks at me, she's 19 years old, tends to say what's on her mind. She kind of eyes me up and says, "Dad, gravity hasn't been kind to you at all." So I thought, well, yeah, Newton is still right, so we can't avoid that. But with that comment, if we can go ahead here. At Johnson Controls in our Power Solutions business, we are the largest supplier of automotive batteries in the world, and part of that business includes a major opportunity in alternative transportation. Hybrid electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, pure electric vehicles, start-stop vehicles, which you're going to be hearing more about. I mention those because it's not necessarily a real sexy technology, but these vehicles are on the road today in Europe in the millions. Each vehicle is saving anywhere from 5 to 12% in fuel economy. That's a lot less fuel being consumed and a lot less CO2 being generated. And, I'm proud to say that our company in the last couple of years has produced over 3 million of those batteries in the European market, and we're setting our sights on the rest of the globe at this point. So I want to talk a little bit more about technology needs in terms of R&D capabilities, resources, and how we're going to get that all done through partnerships. Here's the way we view our challenges in terms of domains. I'm talking about energy storage now, electrical energy storage, in the sense of batteries. Now, this can be for vehicle applications, which are very well known, of course, but also for things like stationary applications, for storing intermittently generated electricity from photovoltaics or wind sources, and using that to increase the efficiency of, let's say, our energy ecosystem in the United States and in the world. When we look at our challenges, we look at systems, we will look at materials, processes, and modeling. And I won't go through all of this in detail, but basically we don't want to stay where the state of the industry is. We want to move on. We want to move ahead. We want to be thought leaders. We want to be quality leaders, manufacturing leaders in these products and industries. And one of the ways we're going to get to the right-hand side, new materials, new processes, totally new approaches to recycling batteries and reusing those materials and absolutely minimizing the impact on the environment in a manner similar we do in our current business today for lead-acid batteries. We need to be innovative, and we're absolutely convinced that a partnership approach is the way to do this. We have Tom would be the first person to tell you, we've got a lot of brilliant people on staff, but we're not going to be able to do it all on our own. We need different perspectives. We need different resources. So we look at it in terms of 3 key partners that we engage with to drive our business goals. One is the federal and state governments. There's a tremendous amount of brain power in the Department of Energy, other departments as well, but we work quite a bit with DOE in their federal lab systems, labs like Argonne and Idaho, and there's a long list. Tremendous amount of brain power, taxpayer supported, of course. That brain power can and should be brought to bear on very discrete, urgent problems, along with doing long-term 10, 15, 20-year R&D type of activity. Strategic partners, I can't mention a lot of those in terms of private industry partners, but there was an announcement that we have Hitachi of Japan as an R&D partner going forward. And then, topic very near and dear to my heart, university systems. There is, as you all know, I'm preaching to the choir here, but tremendous amount of brain power, physical resources, and equipment resources at universities, and the Big Ten and the Midwestern universities in particular don't have to take a back seat to anybody. I've done a lot of traveling, surveying schools. We should all be very proud of the capabilities that we have here in the Midwest and in Wisconsin in the UW system. Again, you know most of this, but you know, when we look at engineering talent, a lot in the UW system, our experience has been traditionally with the Madison campus through Dean Piercy, but more recently, in the last 2 years, we have significantly accelerated and expanded our activities with the Milwaukee campus, and a lot of that credit has to go to Chancellor Lovell for, I think, really a renaissance that he's brought to the campus as Dean of the Engineering School, and obviously that's going to go forward as Chancellor here. Very engaged with industry, very creative, open to new ideas, and we've, quite honestly, we see it as a chance to improve our business, and we're leveraging that opportunity as best we can. Specific things, collaborative activities with the Milwaukee campus. Over the last couple of years, we had a very successful program in Mike's product realization course to design what I would call a new modular battery system, and all that means really the bottom line is lower cost, higher quality, less recurring engineering costs. Good for our business, good for our customers, and plus we had direct student team involvement in these projects. These students are now better equipped to go into private industry when they leave school. Direct sponsorship. We are currently involved in 4 programs with the College of Engineering and Applied Science related to energy storage that we are directly sponsoring with professors under Dr. Jen. UWM and Johnson Controls were co-applicants for a couple of DOE funding opportunities for electrical energy storage, and we're hoping for good news within the next 4 weeks on those applications, along with UWM and many other entities here in southeastern Wisconsin. We are a member of the Wisconsin Energy Research Corporation, proud member. That's a great consortium, and I think that's going to be, within a very short time frame, you will all see that that's going to bear a lot of fruit and have a direct impact on all the members and the economy in southern Wisconsin. And we're also a member of the Center for Advanced Materials Manufacturing. That's last but not least. I just want to make it clear that when we talk about product, or anybody talks about product, they tend to get wrapped up in just thinking about product features. Today in the world, and especially if you've had a chance to go over to China and the Pacific Rim countries, I mean, computerization has gotten to the point where it's getting increasingly difficult to distinguish yourself in the marketplace in terms of just product features. Going forward, what we need is a renaissance of manufacturing excellence to drive quality and innovation, not only in product features and components, but in the way we make those components and products. Milwaukee historically has been strong in that area. Here's another opportunity for us to, let's say, have a reemergence of a traditional strength in manufacturing capability. In particular, I'm sorry I may have left out 1 or 2 people on Dr. Jen's staff, but we have been working, and I'd like to do a call out here to Dr. Junhong Chen and Dr. Ben Church. We've been working with them quite successfully for well over a year and a half now on a couple of very important programs related to lithium-ion batteries. We are seeing good midterm results. And we also have opportunities going forward through the DOE funds that are available to expand our activities with Drs. Chen and Church. Here's just an example, unitary energy storage. This relates to that product realization course that I talked about. Again, I won't go into a lot of detail, but what we're basically saying is simplify a lithium-ion battery. If you've ever seen, whether it's a lithium-ion battery or a nickel metal hydride battery in an electric or hybrid vehicle, a lot of components. What we're doing here is saying enhance quality, simplify the number of components, make it a more reliable product, bring costs down, take our competitors to task, improve profit margins, strengthen opportunities in Wisconsin for research and development, and make this area a leader. And this is all part of it. Even though it doesn't necessarily sound like sexy science, the sexiness really comes in, are you building and selling product and making money and contributing to the community with those profits. So this is a very important activity for us. Also, in-cell monitoring. This relates directly to nanomaterials. Again, that phrase is bandied about quite a bit, nano, nano, nano. Absolutely critical. The essence of this program is simplify the battery system by eliminating a lot of the peripherals. This might be a poor analogy just because it frustrates me. Recently got a new television and I think it came with, like 15 remote controls. The way I view this is that what we're doing is we're taking all those peripherals that would normally be in a battery system that add weight, volume, cost. We're going to drive to put those in the cells and have the cell be somewhat of a self-controlling device. Again, it's hard to get your hands around it or your head around the concept, but this is a very important piece of our systems technology going forward, and we are working today with UWM's College of Engineering and Applied Science on this activity. Also, real happy to tell you that we have a physical presence here on the first floor of the College of Engineering and Applied Science. There's construction underway right now to build a dry room to produce lithium-ion cells. This is a major activity and positions this campus, the UW system in Milwaukee, as only a handful of entities in the world that will have this kind of capability, with the controlled environment, the advanced equipment, and the ability to make high-precision lithium-ion cells. And we're proud to be working with Mike's team on this activity. We also have a lab that's underway already on the 8th floor of that same building. It's a chemical and electrochemical laboratory where we're testing out new cell materials, doing electrochemical testing, and we have several staff that have an office on site already in that building. So I point that out. This is a true collaborative activity. UWM grad students and staff also have access to this as a shared facility for exchanging both equipment access and the mental capital, which is really the key going forward. And so going forward, our strategy here, I've listed 4 main points. We want to establish Wisconsin and the UW system as the center of R&D excellence for electrical energy storage in the United States and hopefully globally. We're not there yet, but these activities are big strides forward. We want to provide a stable recruiting pipeline for Johnson Controls. I mean, this is part of a business need. We want to be able to have, position UW as a system where we can say we see a pipeline of students in modeling, electrochemistry, material science, mechanical engineering for the stability of our business and our technology development. We want to be able to, in a collaborative effort, effectively compete for federal funds today and going forward for energy storage and other opportunities. And really, bottom line is the economy, and this is a big step forward, driving innovation and creativity to enhance the economic prospects for Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin going forward. So, thank you for your attention.
Okay, the third major project which we're going to be highlighting this morning is what's going on at Innovation Park. As many of you know, we closed on the land in Innovation Park in mid-February. We're going to be controlling about 71 acres at Innovation Park. It includes 60 acres for development and 11 acres for butterfly and wildlife habitat. It's 8 miles west of our current Kenwood campus, and we are very excited to be located out in Wauwatosa because Innovation Park is right across the street from the current research hub of this region, which is the Regional Medical Center. Our first building on this campus will be a $5.4 million funded from the Federal Economic Development Administration to construct a 25,000 square foot building related to partnering with entities both at the Regional Medical Center and industries within the region. We'll be groundbreaking on this land this summer, and we are extremely excited about the fact that we'll be so close to so many great partners in the Regional Medical Center, including Med College of Wisconsin, Children's Hospital Freighter, and the Blood Center. And it was very interesting. You know, we've talked a lot about this being an engineering campus out in Wauwatosa in the past, in the Innovation Park, and we've had some really good meetings with the leadership out at the Regional Medical Center, and the two most pressing needs weren't necessarily engineering related. They had to do with healthcare economics and supply chain management, which obviously involve our economics department or business school. So I think that this is going to be, just having a presence out there is going to increase our collaboration well beyond just science, but in other areas where the university can add value and we can increase our partnership and the research strengths that we have on our campus. So the next person I'd like to introduce is Peggy Troy. She's President and CEO of Children's Hospitals and Health Systems. She is a leader of the Regional Medical Center, a consortium of 6 institutions. And I would like to thank her for spending the time today. She made a special trip up from Chicago this morning just to be with us. So, Peggy?
Thank you so much, Chancellor, and it's a real honor to be here today before the Board of Regents to talk a little bit about Children's Hospital, but more importantly about the exciting opportunities and the partnership that we really look forward to and really have enjoyed over the past several years. So a few facts about us. We are a very robust and full-service children's hospital. We are about caregiving. And I'll show you some statistic about that, but we are one of the nation's leaders in children's health care. We were just ranked the 3rd best children's hospital in the United States, so right here in our own community. We really are about advocacy as well. Children do not have a voice, they don't vote. And so much of what we have to do is really be there on their behalf. About half the kids in the state of Wisconsin find themselves on the Badger Care program. And as you know, with the state and its economic conditions, we've got some real challenges ahead of us to really keep kids safe, healthy, and well. We are an amazing research enterprise. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes because that, I think, fundamentally has the biggest opportunity for us in this collaborative opportunity. And also, we're all about education. We are the teaching site for anything that has to do with children's health care in this community. So your School of Social Work, your School of Occupational Physical Therapy, nursing, and others all come to our campus so that we can provide them with exceptional experiences and hopefully attract them to come to our organization to provide that great care for kids. Our vision, and this really is in concert with what the mayor talked about this morning. We really believe that we can have our population of children in the state of Wisconsin be the healthiest in the nation. And we're coming from behind the 8 ball. Milwaukee is one of the 4th most impoverished cities in America. We're not proud of that ranking, but it's where we are. We really believe if we can attack some of the issues, like the mayor was talking about this morning, around infant mortality, about infant death in the first year of life and things like that, we can really become the healthiest in the nation. But we have to do that with clear integration and, most importantly, these powerful collaborations. We realize as a children's hospital we cannot do this alone, but we really have to count on the mayor's office and UWM and others to really help us accelerate and make that a place where kids can grow up, thrive, and become productive citizens. I just want to tell you a few quick facts, and this is indicative of our campus out there in Innovation Park. We admit many kids. We do a lot of surgery. We are the level 1 trauma unit, so anytime a child has any traumatic injury, they come to our organization for the very best care. We also have a very robust primary care function. We have 67 primary care doctors. One of the things we're also very good at and notable around the state is in community services. We do a lot of out-of-home care, public and private child welfare, child abuse counseling, et cetera, et cetera. And again, in combination with your school's social work, we really do have a big footprint in really keeping kids safe and healthy. And we employ over 3,000 people. On the medical campus out near Innovation Park, the combined employment is over 15,000 people, so it's a very robust economic engine for this community. We have over 100 locations around the state. Most importantly, our main campus is here in Milwaukee, but we also have inpatient units up in the Fox Valley. And as you see the green around the state, those are where, as the further out we go, we really do provide a lot of child abuse counseling, child welfare types of services in partnership with those communities when they've asked us to come and help them. And you know that abused, injured children are some of the most vulnerable, so it's very important that we do have that long and broad footprint across the entire state. Our research institute is really notable. It's one of the largest in the country. We have a lot of investigators. We have many active studies. We pride ourselves on translational research, and as a result, when Frederick, the medical college, Marquette and UWM came together, we were awarded a $20 million grant called a CTSA. It's a Collaborative Translational Science Award. And what this award is from the federal government is an opportunity for us to create infrastructure so that instead of us all doing our own things in research, we can come together as collaborative partners and bring our best skills together to try to look for new and different ways to advance healthcare for individuals. And that just started this last year, and I really am excited about the UWM participation in this effort because you bring so many wonderful pieces and parts and aspects of your organization that can really help us be among the best in the country. As we look at our exciting opportunities and the collaborative opportunities between the medical college, ourselves, UWM, and not only our hospital but our research institute, we look at things like the translational research, biomedical research. We just talked about healthcare economics. If you've read the newspapers lately, the healthcare environment is very tumultuous. We've got to find new and better ways to create value. One of the things we're talking about in partnership with the School of Business and Public Health is how can we really evaluate the value we bring in healthcare. We're really good at providing that care through doctors and nurses, et cetera, but we really haven't had the opportunity to instill the science behind what it really costs us to deliver that care and how we create that best value. We are a leader in genomics, which I think has a huge opportunity for your organization as well. We were the first in the country to actually take genotyping and have clinical implications where we actually cured a child. This just happened last year. And so we're excited about us continuing that in a partnering relationship. We're working with the School of Nursing on how we can evaluate new care models because we know the cost of health care is exponential. We know there's a shortage of pediatric specialists. So how can we take nurse practitioners and PhD nurses and other individuals to come together around a care team that is giving extraordinary care, but it's affordable care in that continuum? And we also look forward to the opportunity for some research infrastructure. You do a much better job in intellectual property than we do on our campus, and instead of us reinventing that, could we come together to work on a collaborative effort so that we can take the best of what we all do and really take things to patent and other opportunities that benefit all of us. We also know that in the move to Innovation Park, and as I'm the head of the medical campus out there, we've got some economies of scale, whether it's around energy. You have the world's expert in supply chain. We've built hundreds of millions of dollars in supplies between Freighted, ourselves, and the medical college. I mentioned intellectual property, and then we all have support services out there that we really believe, thanks to Chancellor Lovell, that we can get these economies of scale and really reduce costs and make it a cost-efficient environment. So I think there's lots of exciting opportunities. I want to give you one example that I think is very relevant and hopefully will inspire you. We were just ranked the world's best outcomes in complex heart surgery for children. Our results are truly the best in the world. So where do you go from there? Because we still have kids that have really serious heart problems. We are doing a much better job because of our ability, early surgery intervention, to keep these kids alive, but they sometimes really require heart transplant. And The good news is with seatbelts and some of the other things that have happened around car safety, we have less availability of organ donation. So if we have a very complex child that needs to have a heart transplant, sometimes our heart will fail before an organ becomes available. And right now we have probably a 1900 vintage mechanical heart, and it's very cumbersome, and the kids have to stay in ICUs, and they can't lead any kind of normal life while they might await a heart transplant for 6, 8, 10 months. So we really believe that that is something that we could do with the science of our surgeons, partnering with the biomechanical engineering department here, and really develop that new and innovative way that we can create that environment for the kids so that they can have that mechanical heart and still live and work or go to school, but then be much more physically capable of accepting that new heart when it comes available. Well, the synergy that occurs, particularly when you're on the same campus, so that the engineers and these world-class heart surgeons can talk to one another and really get involved and excited and do innovation, I think could really change the landscape of children's health care. And I think that because of Chancellor Lovell and all of his energy and expertise and willingness to come out there in a way in which we can create that translational partnership, we have tremendous opportunities together that we could not enjoy without your willingness to be there. So we're very excited about that. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you. I'd like to tell you how much we're appreciative of what you bring to this community, how much it means to us as an organization. We love the fact that we can be an extraordinary teaching site for you, but also draw on your expertise and knowledge through the different schools, and really look forward to more and more opportunities to partner. And my Board of Trustees wanted to thank you for your decision to appoint Chancellor Lovell, because it's just been a fabulous opportunity for us to do great things together. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Peggy. And we're also very excited about the opportunities that being at Initial Park will bring to our students, faculty, and staff. The fourth area today, which I want to talk to you about, is our new School of Freshwater Sciences. Again, this is our other new school. We've already heard about public health. And one of the nice things about the School of Freshwater Sciences is I believe that we're not just the first school of freshwater science in the country, but I think that we're going to be the best, not just now, but for years to come. And part of that is we're going to have world-class facilities. We are going to have a $50 million addition to our Great Lakes Water Institute, located down on the south side of Milwaukee near Rockwell. The construction is going to be starting about a year from now, and we're currently in the initial design phases of this site, but it will add about 1,000 gross square feet for shared research and support facilities, some new laboratories, some teaching spaces as we develop academic programs in the school, and more collaborative spaces for some of our partners, such as the FDA, which we are currently working closely with, and the EPA, who we hope to work with more in the future. Just this week, to tell you about the prestige that this school has going across the globe, is we've hired our founding dean, it was just announced, in the paper yesterday, David Garman, who was a specialist in water resources and pollution control. And for those of you who read the article, you understand that he's in Australia and is considered one of the world's 10 best experts in pollution control in fresh water. And in this line, I'd like to bring forth our fourth speaker. He's probably familiar to many of you. It's Rich Musin. He's chairman, president, and CEO of Badger Meter, and he's chair of the Milwaukee 7 Water Council. And just last month, Rich went to Washington, D.C., to accept on behalf of the Water Council the inaugural 2011 Water Prize for Clean Water America Alliance. And it's interesting, again, I appreciate Rich being here. All of our panel members are very busy. I think Rich has a 12:30 flight out of the airport today, so he'll probably have keep his comments a little briefer than normal maybe. But I'm very proud to welcome Rich Musin.
Thank you. I was born and raised in the Milwaukee area, went to Whitewater, got a degree in accounting with a minor in history, which qualifies me as the most boring guy on earth. But in studying history of this region, one of the things that I learned was that the area of southeastern Wisconsin was developed on the basis of wet industries. We were once the brewery capital of the United States, the tannery capital of the United States. We did a lot of food processing, all things that required fresh water, and we sit on 21% of the world's fresh water right outside our back door, so it made a lot of sense. Over the course of about 100 years, we lost all of our tanneries, we lost most of our breweries, we lost a lot of our food processing companies, but all of those smaller companies that in the late 1800s built up around those wet industries to make the pumps and valves and meters and fittings that those wet industries needed had quietly grown into a large concentration of water technology companies in the area. 5 years ago, I had this idea that maybe we have such a concentration here that we could use it to our advantage. In the business world, all I ask for is an unfair competitive advantage in a growing market. That's all I want. And I look for that aggressively. And I believe that water is a growing market, and maybe Wisconsin has an unfair competitive advantage in that market. So I went to the only source of free labor left in America, and that is graduate students. I went to Sam White's urban planning class here at UWM, and I said to the students, I want to know how many water technology companies there are in southeastern Wisconsin, and I want to know whether any area of the world has a greater concentration. So they went out and did their work because they were going for a grade, so graduate students will do anything for a grade, and they came back with the answer. And they said there's over 150 water technology companies in southeastern Wisconsin, and there is no area in the world with a greater concentration than what we have. In fact, what they found out was that 5 of the 11 largest water technology companies in the world have major operations right here in southeastern Wisconsin. About 20,000 people employed in those businesses, over 800 scientists and researchers in this region quietly doing work on water technology. If you're talking about water meters, heaters, filters, fixtures, pumps, they all come out of this region. A.O. Smith, the largest maker of water heaters in Milwaukee. Badger Meter, the largest maker of water meters in Milwaukee. Siemens Filtration, Pentair Pumps, Kohler bathroom fixtures, all in this region. We have that concentration. So my next step was, I believe if you want something done, you ask a busy man. If you want something done right, you ask a busy woman. So I went to the busiest woman I knew, who was Julia Taylor, the head of the Greater Milwaukee Committee. I said, Julia, I've got this vision. I think we can build this region. Julia said, let's go. We recruited Paul Jones, the CEO of A.O. Smith. We recruited Carlos Santiago, and eventually Mike has joined our board, and we have a very strong board of directors. And we went out and we started promoting this idea with 3 objectives in mind. 1, we want to grow southeastern Wisconsin, and maybe all of Wisconsin. We want to grow economic opportunities and jobs for our children and grandchildren around water. Secondly, and very related, we need to grow a talent pipeline around water. And thirdly, using those companies, using that talent pipeline, using the resources we've got here, we want to help solve the world's water problems. They say water will be the oil of the 21st century. They are wrong. There are substitutes for oil. There's wind, there's solar, there's biofuels. There is no substitute for water. It's the only thing you can't live for more than 3 days without. 5 million people a year die every year from lack of fresh, clean water, most of them children. This is an epidemic. This is a major problem. And we have here in Wisconsin the researchers, the technologies, the talent, and the companies that can help solve these problems. That's what the Water Council is all about. We brought all these players together. And we were smart enough to reach out to the universities. And if you'll bear with me, I'm going to give you a little Dickensian tale here. This is a tale of 2 cities to really show you what we're trying to do. What opened in Anaheim, California in 1955? Anybody? Disneyland, thank you. And in 1955, the city fathers of Anaheim got around in a room just like this and had a meeting and said, you know what, Disneyland is the starting point. We are going to turn Anaheim, California into the tourist capital of the United States, perhaps even the tourist capital of the world. And for the next 20 years, you know what they did? They did nothing. They did worse than nothing. They let all the orange groves turn into every cheap motel, greasy spoon, and sleazy souvenir stand in the world. Disney in 1972, totally disgusted, went where? Orlando. And they opened Disney World. And the city fathers of Orlando in 1972 sat around in a room just like this and said, with Disney World as a starting point, we're going to turn Orlando into the tourist capital of the United States, perhaps even the tourist capital of the world. And for the next 20 years, you know what they did? They got the tourist industry to work with the universities, to work with the government, to work with the nonprofits, to work with the venture capitalists. And today, arguably, you could say Orlando is the tourist capital of the United States. With Disney World, with Universal Studios, with SeaWorld, they still got those crazy alligator farms, I don't know. But to really make my point, and this is for the Regents, to really make my point, Anaheim, California, which was going to be the tourist capital of the world, okay? At the University of Anaheim or at the University of Fullerton in Southern California, right next door, to this day you cannot take one course in tourism or hospitality management. But the number 2 rated school in the United States for tourism and hospitality management is the University of Central Florida in Orlando. That's called teaming up a region. So that was our objective. We got the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee to join us and develop the first ever school of freshwater sciences. We got the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater to start teaching water business. I actually, on Monday, employed a kid from Whitewater who has an accounting major with a water minor. I sat with some entrepreneurs from Minneapolis who were trying to figure out where to locate their water business. They said, we're looking at Texas, we're looking at New York, we're looking at California, why should we come to Milwaukee? And I said, find me one place in the United States where you can hire an accountant with a water minor. You can't. You can here. Parkside is working with us. All of the universities are working with us. Last week I had lunch with a professor from Madison who's doing some cutting-edge water research and wants to partner with the companies. The uniqueness is this. There are areas of the world that are doing research in water. Singapore is doing a lot of research. Israel is doing a lot of research. They aren't doing any production. They don't have manufacturing companies. There are areas of the world where they have a lot of manufacturing companies. The Netherlands has a lot of manufacturing companies. I'm Dutch. They have them there because their whole damn country is underwater. Of course they got to make pumps. What we have here in Milwaukee, what we have here in southeastern Wisconsin is something very unique. We have both the companies and the universities. We have the companies and the talent. And I'll tell you, speaking as a CEO, smart CEOs will relocate their business, will start up a new business in a region for 2 reasons. Not for tax credits. The smart ones will chase synergy and talent. Why do financial services firms open up on Manhattan Island? Think of a more expensive place to do business than Manhattan Island. They're chasing synergy and talent. Why do country music publishing firms go to Nashville? They're chasing synergy and talent. Water technology companies, if they want to really take advantage of opportunities, if they really want to grow their business, will come to Milwaukee and they will chase the synergy with the other water technology companies and the talent pipeline that we have built here. University of Wisconsin, the entire system is a vital part of that talent pipeline. And personally, I came here to thank you for everything you've done to help us build that pipeline. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Rich, and we certainly appreciate your valuable time, especially if you have to head off to the airport briefly. I do want to mention one last physical space on our campus that we have had the opportunity to acquire. And for those of us at UWM, and particularly those who have been here a long time, know that we've been talking about this space for the last several decades. And in December of 2010, we were very fortunate to purchase the Columbia St. Mary site for $20 million. And this site is just located really in the heart of our campus. And the reason why this is so important is UWM was the second densest campus in the country in terms of student to acreage ratio. We were only behind Georgia State University in Atlanta. And we really did not have the space to take advantage of our research and academic opportunities. And by purchasing Columbia St. Mary's, which we're now calling the Northwest Quad, we increased the footprint of the Camwood campus by 20%. So we had a 20% increase in one day. And it's 11 acres, it's 820,000 square feet, which is more than twice the size of any other building we currently have on this campus. It's 3 times bigger than Wisconsin's Institute for Discovery in Madison. Almost more importantly, we have over 800 parking spaces located on the site. And, but it really is a canvas, which our campus will be able to build on for the next decade. And we're going to have some first uses. We're moving our children's center over there to make room for the Kenwood IRC, which I described earlier. We're going to have our honors college moving in this facility, and we're going to have the students housed there. And as we do other capital projects on our campus, we're going to be using it for surge space, including Bolton Hall, which is the first building. We have some major renovations on our HVAC system. We have about 500 people we need to locate out of that building while those improvements go on. But we currently have a lot of people looking at how we can best utilize that, both from an academic and research and services perspective for our campus. And we have several committees that will be working on building that out, as I said, over the next decade. Now, to this point, we've talked a lot about the buildings, our new academic programs, and our research partners and the people we're working with. And we all have to keep in mind that these all these efforts exist for a very special audience, and those are our students, our 31,000 students that are on this campus. And we recognize that we must continue to recruit the best and brightest from Wisconsin and elsewhere across the country, particularly the Midwest. And to do this, we've developed a new campaign which we're introducing, just rolling out today, first time publicly, something called Powerful Ideas and Proven Results. And as we have shown you, there have been significant investments into this campus, particularly over the last decade, which we can all be very proud of. And we want to talk about how those initial investments are impacting the students and faculty and staff of this campus. Now, one thing about the new campaign, I think hope we introduce tremendous strides this campus has taken. For many of you know, we started as a teacher's college, and then for a long time, for several decades, we were no more of a commuter campus than a destination campus within the UW system. I'm very proud to state that today we have students from every county in the state of Wisconsin. We have students from all 50 states, and we have students from more than 80 countries from around the world. And you combine that with a very diverse faculty from around the world, UWM has become a truly international research university. Now, from our origins on the east side, you've heard about many of our buildings. We are now moving out to exciting new locations to foster our growth and the opportunities for our faculty and students into metropolitan areas, both downtown and out in Wauwatosa. The Powerful Ideas, Proven Results is really the vehicle which we're going to use now to help tell our story about this project, particularly to the next generation of students who we hope to come to our campus. We've gathered this information. We have a new website called powerful.uwm.edu. And we've really condensed this story into a brief video. I think it's about 3 minutes long that we'd like to show you today as kind of a way of wrapping up. The world of higher education is in a state of flux, and there's probably never been a more challenging time than we have right now. At UWM today, we have over 30,000 students, 8,000 employees. We have a big economic impact on the region, over $1.5 billion. And I think we're really trying to fight for our resources. I think there's a lot of things happening within the state, within the system, and we'll try to do everything we can to protect it.
UWM, number one, it's very culturally diverse.
It's like a friendly atmosphere, from the union to the library to just walking on the streets. Many cultures are here, and it's a very, very fun experience being here.
UWM is a very diverse campus. We have students from all 50 states and 85 different countries. We have more students of color than any other school in the UW system, and we have a faculty that is also very diverse and comes from all around the world. We're very proud of the fact that we have more Wisconsin residents on our campus than any other school in the UW system, and 92% of our graduates stay within the state of Wisconsin.
I've had opportunities here I don't think I would ever have anywhere else.
As one of just 2 research institutions in the state of Wisconsin, UWM is constantly working to develop new technology and processes to drive the economy. Last year, UWM had a record research expenditures of nearly $70 million. This is up 200% over the last 10 years. Right now, we're teaming up with other universities and regional manufacturers in areas like novel materials, new freshwater technologies, and new energy technologies that will transform the economy of southeastern Wisconsin.
You have a lot of ties with the industry. You get a much closer relationship with your professors.
UWM is a major contributor to the community. We're strategically expanding on several fronts. Over the next 6 years, the state of Wisconsin is investing $240 million in capital projects at the UWM campus. We're building a new home for the country's first school of freshwater sciences. Our School of Public Health is working to become the first accredited public health school in the state. We're excited to get moving on a new gateway to our Eastside campus, the Kenwood Integrated Research Complex, and perhaps our most ambitious project, Innovation Park, on the Milwaukee County grounds. It's right next to the biggest research organizations in southeastern Wisconsin. It's really an exciting time to be here and watch the university grow.
Not only like will the school's reputation benefit, but then that way you can get more students and harbor more education.
There's so much going on at UWM that we can't help be excited about all the great things that our campus is doing. And despite the current political uncertainty, we know that our best days are yet to come. I want to thank you for supporting the faculty, staff, and students of our campus. As I hope you can realize, the message we're trying to get you to take away today is that UWM, along with our partners, are really trying to build a stronger Milwaukee and Wisconsin. I'd really like to thank our guests. I know Mayor Barrett and Rich Meeson had to leave today, but also let's give one more thank you to Mike Andrew, Tom Watson, and Pete Troy, who are still here today. So the question is, what's next? Well, this summer we're starting a new strategic plan for our campus. The strategic plan will focus on three key areas. We're going to continue our research growth initiative. Another very important thing which we can never lose sight of on our campus is we're always going to be an access campus. We need to focus on continuing to provide those opportunities to recruit a more diverse population of students and staff and faculty to our campus. And finally, the final area, as many of our other chancellors know, campus climate is a challenge right now with all that's happening, and we're going to focus our strategic plan on campus climate and diversity, so making sure that our university is a great place to work and go to school. We have a busy year ahead of us, and the good thing is next year we'll be able to keep you informed on our progress on where we've gone and where we're going. And again, I want to welcome everyone here to UWM in Milwaukee. We really thank you all for joining us here today. And we would love to answer any questions that the Regents may have from what they've heard this morning. So thank you.
Questions from the Regents or others? If not, thank you. Chancellor, thank you all. Thank you to the partners. We really appreciate all you're doing for this campus and the community. Thank you. All right, we will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is to talk about the current state of the budget deliberations. Late Friday, the legislature's Joint Finance Committee completed its work on the proposed 2011-13 biennial budget bill, including provisions related to the University of Wisconsin system. Keeping with the budget proposal submitted by Governor Walker, the committee approved.
Yeah, it's hard to.
How's this? Is this better? I apologize. Thank you, Betty. Keeping with the budget proposal submitted by Governor Walker, the committee approved $250 million in reductions to GPR support for the UW system. Legislators offered many significant amendments to the bill, most significantly preserving our unified UW system and offering many long-sought administrative flexibilities to all UW institutions. This morning I will ask President Riley to provide some context for this presentation. Then Senior Vice President Michael Morgan and Associate Vice President Frida Harris will give us an overview of the JFC's actions. We'll stop for questions and discussion with the board before getting more information about new provisions added to the budget regarding internet connectivity, and then have some more Q&A and discussion. Last week's legislative action and today's presentation is the latest chapter in a bigger ongoing conversation about the future of our great public universities and colleges. Over the past year, we have engaged the people of Wisconsin in an important discussion about the role of higher education in the state, and more particularly the role of our UW system. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but our state needs more college graduates and more wealth-paying jobs to thrive in an innovation economy. Rich Meeson just a few moments ago talked about businesses chasing synergy and talent. If we want the university to play a key role in addressing those needs, we need a stable financial commitment from the state of Wisconsin. You've heard me say this before, but it bears repeating. In the early 80s, the state allocated almost 14 cents of every tax dollar to the UW system. Today, fewer than 9 cents of every tax dollar goes to the University of Wisconsin. Under the budget currently before the legislature, state support will drop to about 6 cents on the dollar. Discussing these issues with people all around the state, I've talked to legislators, chambers of commerce, editorial boards, Kiwanis clubs, Rotarians, business organizations, and individual citizens. I heard from so many who care deeply about the UW system and who have their own stories about how it has impacted their lives. We saw some of that passion reflected in the intense discussions about what public higher education in this state should look like. In spite of those differing opinions and strong feelings, we all share the conviction that the UW system's core offerings, education, research, innovative thinking, and entrepreneurial spirit, is needed now more than ever to be safeguarded and nurtured for future generations. As the legislature took up this proposed budget, they heard from people across the state about the importance of preserving a unified UW system that includes UW-Madison. Legislators listened to their constituents in this regard, and the changes they made reflect that fact. I want to personally thank Senators Sheila Harsdorf and Alberta Darling for their leadership on the Joint Finance Committee. Our Chancellor spoke convincingly about the need for new administrative flexibilities for all UW institutions, and the JFC amendments reflect significant progress in that area. So without further ado, let me turn it over to President Riley, who will introduce the rest of the cast who will talk about this budget today. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pruitt. Can everybody hear me? Very good. I should tell you that I found myself thinking as a father as I was watching and listening to the UWM presentation. Some of you know that our youngest son, Darvin, just finished his sophomore year at UWM. And I thought, wow, I'm really getting my money's worth, aren't I? That was a good feeling. Thank you. As you said, Chuck, the Joint Finance Committee amended the original budget bill in a number of significant ways. One thing that did not change, though, was the magnitude of the financial challenges, some $250 million in reductions to our institutions over the next 2 years. As we implement those cuts, we must focus on preserving broad access to a high-quality college experience, on safeguarding our transformative research, and on fulfilling our promise of engagement and service to Wisconsin communities. With significantly fewer resources, however, we will not be able to do all that we need to be doing for the people of Wisconsin. Registrar and financial aid services will be slower and therefore less effective. Courses will be fewer. Classes will be larger, and the UW's outreach in areas like economic development will be crimped. These are bad and sad developments. They will take Wisconsin backward, not forward. However, the new leadership flexibilities and our ability to delegate that new authority to local institutions will help. As we said in our statement following the committee's vote on the amended budget, UW chancellors, UW system presidents, and regents appointed by both Democratic and Republican governors have long argued that our institutions could operate more efficiently if relieved of cumbersome state rules. Governor Walker showed us that he's willing to consider bold changes and that he recognizes UW's unique operational needs. Building on that original proposal, legislators worked to improve this budget in ways that would benefit all UW institutions and preserve the system. The leadership, again, of Senator Harsdorf and Representative Stricotta was especially instrumental in that. To varying degrees, the legislation passed by the Joint Finance Committee provides all UW institutions with new leadership flexibilities in areas addressed in our Wisconsin IDEA partnership: budgeting, financial management, personnel, and purchasing, for instance. The end result is the most significant set of changes we've seen in the UW system since it was created 40 years ago. To give us more detail about each of these individual provisions approved by JFC, I'll turn it over to our Senior Vice President, Michael Morgan. Michael.
Thank you, President Riley. It is on. Can you hear me? Thank you, President Riley. Again. My job this morning is to go over some of the high points of the omnibus
amendment to the UW system's portion of the executive budget that was offered by Joint Finance. The three areas we're having a technical issue here. Oh, we're going to touch just a little bit on the governance structure, on the UW budget, some of the numbers that were changed, but we're going to dwell quite a bit on UW flexibility. Shrita Harris is also going to join at the appropriate time, especially if there are questions on some of the details. As it relates to governance, there was no change in the governance structure for the UW system, as already been mentioned. The proposal to separate UW-Madison from the UW system as a standalone public authority was not approved, and the proposed study for a authority for UW-Milwaukee was also taken out of the budget. A special task force, however, was put together, will be put together, to look at the issue of governance, and I'll talk a little bit more about that task force later. The task force is really to look at UW restructuring and operational flexibilities. We think that as an opportunity for us to continue our discussion on some additional flexibilities that we need to be effective in providing the kind of services that was mentioned earlier for our students. Nothing changed with regard to the cut to the UW budget, as was mentioned by President Riley. The $250 million stayed in. That cut is still there. What did change, however, is the cut to UW-Madison. In the governance budget, Madison, as you know, was slated to absorb about 50% of the $250 million cut over the biennium. The Joint Finance Committee, however, amended Madison's portion of the cut from about 50% to 38.5%, which is their traditional portion of any cut that we've had to work through in the past. Madison, based on GPR fees, is about 38% of the system, 38.5% of the system. And generally, when there is a cut, they take a proportionate cut in that area. The annual cut for UW-Madison, therefore, because the percentage was reduced, goes from about $62.5 million to $47.2 million. Joint Finance didn't change the 25% cut to system administration, but it did add another piece, and that is a reduction of GPR-funded positions. We went from 126 to 75, or a reduction of about 51 GPR-funded positions. The amendment also requires that we go through a process of putting together a plan on how we intend to operationalize that cut. That plan is to be presented to Joint Finance and to the Secretary of the Department of Administration by September 1st of this year. For Joint Finance, it's a 14-day passive review, meaning if no member of Finance called a matter for hearing, it will be accepted. If there is a member of Finance who decides to call it for a hearing, then we will have to go before Finance to talk about our plan. As you know, President Riley has put together a committee, advisory committee, comprised of many in this room, regents, chancellors, and others, to help us work through a plan on how we might want to move forward in the operations of UW system, given the cuts that we have to endure. We did make significant gains in the flexibility area in this budget amendment offered by Joint Finance, and I'll talk about some of those gains. In the area of budgeting, one of the things that we had asked for in the Wisconsin Idea Partnership was flexibility in budgeting, mainly that we'd like to see our budget come to UW system in a block grant, and that's exactly what happened with the joint finance motion. The UW system would receive a block grant with only two appropriations, one for general program operations and the other for debt service. Separate appropriations then would be made in the form of a block grant from based on decisions made by the Board of Regents to the individual institutions in the UW system. Once again, those budget allocations would be made in the form of a block grant. There are still separate appropriations in the UW system budget, but for the most part, they're for the two areas that I just talked about, operations and debt, and then we have another appropriation for UW system, as well as state lab of hygiene and the veterinary diagnostic lab. All other GPR appropriations for UW system were deleted. The joint finance motion moved current law limiting resident undergraduate tuition out of existence. They deleted that. And the issue of future flexibilities for tuition, they left for further study. The second dot point, however, is controlling with regard to tuition flexibility. At the end of the day, undergraduate tuition increases will be capped in this budget pursuant to the motion from Joint Finance at 5.5 annually during the 11-13 biennium. Differential tuition plans approved prior to June 1st of 11 would be exempt from this limitation, but no new differential tuitions could be added during this biennium. Financial management, good news. A segregated fund would be established that would contain all program revenue received by UW system. 3 new appropriations would be created within this fund, including general program operations, something I talked about before, debt service, and gift and grants. Interest earnings in those funds would return to the campuses where the funds were generated. So any interest earnings on campuses would be returned to those campuses. That's a great step forward, and it would prevent any future raids of UW dollars. Segregated student fees, the Joint Finance Committee made a point of segregating out student fees and made the very strong point that they are to be used only for the purpose for which they were generated. So there is no flexibility in the segregated fees area. Human resources, great gains here. During the 11-13 biennium, the Board of Regents would be permitted to provide supplemental pay plans for classified and unclassified employees. Right now, the state of Wisconsin set a pay plan, and in the past, there was no ability on the part of the Board of Regents to augment that pay plan in any way. Notwithstanding market conditions at any of the institutions, colleges, or universities within the system. This addition would allow us, this flexibility would allow the Board of Regents to provide for supplemental pay for, as I indicated, faculty and academic staff, as well as classified employees. The same option would be afforded to UW-Madison, separate from the Board of Regents action for all other institutions. Both actions in this area coming from the Board of Regents obviously would have to be approved by the Board of Regents, but any action in this area on supplemental pay plan coming from UW-Madison would have to be approved by the Board of Regents. So Madison couldn't take any action in this area without the approval of the board. In addition to that, any supplemental pay plan would continue to have to be approved by JOCR, the Joint Committee on Employee Relations, a legislative committee, so we would have to make a stop there. The Board of Regents would be authorized to establish one new personnel system for UW-Madison and another for all other UW institutions. The language retains existing employee protections for current employees, and permits current represented classified employees to continue to have collective bargaining rights similar to other state employees. Faculty and academic staff would not be placed in these classified bargaining units, and I think this is probably due to the unit classification issue that we've been working through. This does not impact on the ability of faculty and academic staff to organize as unions. UW-Madison would also have the ability to have represented classified employees. UW-Madison would also, separate from the work of UW System Administration, have the ability to collectively bargain with their employee unions. What happens here is that instead of OSER, which is the state agency that does most of the collective bargaining for all of our labor groups in UW System, we have two new groups now who would have the ability to bargain with employees in UW System. UW-Madison would bargain with their labor unions. They would have to bring any collective bargaining agreement that they may have reached with those unions to the Board of Regents, and UW System Administration would be tasked with the job of collective bargaining with all other classified and unclassified labor groups within the system. Once again, any agreement reached either in the UW-Madison context or UW System Administration, those agreements would have to be approved by Joker. UW System employees would continue to participate in state group health insurance plans in the Wisconsin retirement system. The Board of Regents would, however, have the authority to create and abolish positions funded from all program revenue and fund sources, and GPR positions also could be created using the current process that we have. The restriction on dual employment, the $12,000 restriction, that is compensation received by full-time employees of the UW System institution for work at another institution, which is capped in statute at $12,000, that goes away. That was deleted in the motion. In the capital planning area, UW System projects that cost less than $500,000 that are entirely funded, keyword here entirely funded with gifts and grants would not require the approval by the building commission. And if UW System institutions decided to not use the resources of the Department of Administration, Division of State Facilities, there could be a savings of 4% for project management. One other change in this area, gifts of real estate, the threshold was moved from $30,000 to $150,000, so that the UW Board of Regents could, in fact, accept a gift of real estate up to a cap of $150,000 in value without having to go back to the Building Commission for approval. In the procurement area, we have a situation where where the Department of Administration would have to delegate to the Board of Regents for all UW institutions except for Madison, and a separate delegation is given to Madison for purchasing contracts related to those services and items unique to the university, to the educational environment. We'll have to work through and try to understand what all that means, but it's a great step forward to have the legislature at this point requiring the DOA delegate this authority. The threshold that requires official bids, that is, the competitive bid process for goods and services, was increased from $25,000 to $50,000. And a big step forward for us is that beginning on July 1st, 2013, the Board of Regents would establish travel policies for all UW System employees. Right now, UW System constitute about 70% of all the travel is done by the state, but yet the Department of Administration controls policies in that area. So, as you can see, there were significant steps forward in terms of flexibilities in a variety of the areas that we've been talking about quite a bit over the last, well, for a very long time. But there's more work to be done. But as a result of granting those flexibilities, the Joint Finance Committee also insisted that there be accountability measures put in place. What you see on this slide are the annual accountability reports that would be required of us. We would have to file those reports to the governor and the legislature. We would have to create measures in all of these areas, and I'm sure we'll have ample opportunity to consult with the governor and the legislature in terms of how we operationalize those accountability measures. Quite frankly, we embrace them for the most part because we've been keeping these accountability measures. We've had these accountability measures, I should say, in place for a very long time, and we've done very well in those areas. I mentioned earlier the task force, the special task force on restructuring or operational flexibility is a task force that will continue to look at two things: governance structures in UW system, and continue to look at operational flexibilities. The 17-member group would be appointed by members of the legislature. The two co-chairs of Joint Finance, I think, and the governor's office would appoint most of these members. And the members would be charged with the responsibility of looking at all of those items that I've enumerated there. Structure of the system, transitioning employees, and it continues. So that work would have to be done by no later than January 1st, 2012. So this is going to be a committee in a hurry if we were to get the work done. And the Joint Finance Committee did appropriate about $50,000 to this group to do its work. So there you have it. Those are the. That's not everything that was in this omnibus bill, omnibus amendment to the executive budget, but those are the things that we thought we'd bring to your attention here this morning. If you have any questions, I think now is the time to pose them.
Regent Bartel. I have two questions, Morgan. You mentioned that in the area of capital planning and budgeting, that UW institutions would not be charged 4% fee that has been ongoing with DOA if the system chooses not to use the Division of Facilities, State Facilities Services. Does that apply across the board, or is that just to the smaller projects?
It applies only to those projects that I talked about. $500,000 or less, entirely funded by Gibson fees.
Okay, and how many?
As far as the parameters extend.
How many such projects do we have of that nature?
Without diminishing the value of the flexibility, not a whole lot of those kind of
I can't remember any that have come before my committee. Okay, I have
those are good and appropriate questions for the chair of the Capital Planning Committee.
I have one other question. In a number of cases of these flexibilities that you mentioned, UW-Madison was selected out to have and given directly the powers to make certain decisions.
Yes.
Subject, of course, coming back to the Board of Regents. Is there anything in the legislation to prevent system from delegating directly to the individual universities, the campuses, that same power that was given directly to Madison, and then which would then come back to the Board?
There's no prohibition that would prevent the Board of Regents from delegating some of those kinds of tasks and responsibilities
Procurement and
to
some of those
individual
other things.
campuses, yes.
So they could be treated just like Madison?
They could be treated just like Madison, yes.
Okay, thank you.
There may be some operational reasons why you might want to do things differently, but there's no legal bar.
Regent Smith? No, you go ahead.
I want to ask about tuition, and specifically about differential tuition, which is something our group has spent a lot of time on in the last few years, Aaron and Lacrosse and Madison. Am I to understand that they are prohibiting any new differential tuition, not only as applied to what we did at Eau Claire, Lacrosse, Madison, which is to all the students, as well as more limited differential tuitions, which we've done on many campuses throughout the... Are they all prohibited as of now?
No, the differential tuitions that are currently in place remain.
Any new ones?
But no new differentials.
And what was the
over the next biennium?
What was the rationale for that, which I
think what the, I'll offer my observation of what I think they were trying to get done there. I think they were trying to set a limit in terms of the overall tuition that would be charged to students on the various campuses. So they set a base of 5.5 for general tuition increase. They could calculate what the differentials are out there among the campuses, and they understood then very clearly what the tuition environment would be for each student in each campus, and they wanted to keep it there.
Michael, follow up.
Regent Vasquez.
Do we have an idea how many campuses we're working on coming forward with differential tuition proposals? Do we have any idea on that?
Do we have any idea? I don't know.
We know that there were at least a couple of campuses that were working with their students at looking at differentials. I don't know that there were any that were ready to bring forward. Well, I know that they weren't ready to bring forward anything for this year, but they would have been looking at some things during the biennium.
And as far as we understand, it's just for the biennium so far that
Correct. The limitation is for the 2011-13 biennial budget period. What they have said is that the task force would then look into what types of flexibility the system should have as far as setting tuition and what the legislature's role should be in that area.
Thank you. All right. Over here, Regent Wingate.
Sure. I guess I want to make more of a statement than anything else, and just say that I think a lot of students really benefited from the ability to have such a say in differential tuitions that we've had in the past. And I know that comes of some concern to them now that tuition will not be increased in the future, at least under this provision, through that mechanism. And so they're concerned for how students will have impact in tuition decisions going forward. And I think citing a resolution from United Council, which represents all students in the system, that supported a unified system and supported these flexibilities, they called for a mechanism to continue where students have the same level of input and buy-in to these kind of tuition decisions that are made on a campus level. And so I would urge us to continue to work with student groups to find ways or find mechanisms or structure, or however we're going to make these decisions in the future, so that students have the same level of buy-in that they have had in the past.
I think it's a good point, and I'd note that one of the issues that the special task force will take up is tuition flexibility. So I think it's going to be really important for the student voices to be heard in that discussion with the task force. Regent Davis.
And kind of related to that, as this is worded, it says the appointments are made by the governor and the legislature, and I wonder if there had been any conversation around what is the expected input from UW system. Same question for Board of Regents, same question for students. Question number one. Question number two has to do with, I know I stepped out, but I wondered if there was some comment to be made about the telecommunication services aspect.
We're getting to that. Regent Davis. I think we're getting to the second question soon, but first question.
We'll address that. On the first one, we haven't had any direct conversations yet. We don't know, for instance, what the governor will do in his veto session in terms of how these task force members would be appointed, so we're interested to see when it gets settled, and we will have those conversations at that point.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Now, I just wanted to provide a bit more detail on the task force and how they will be appointed, by whom, and what categories of citizens the appointors would have. The language of the amendment specifies that the Assembly Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader would each appoint 6 members to the task force. These members would include 3 business or public leaders, 2 current or former UW chancellors or members of the Board of Regents, and 1 member of the legislature. The Senate and Assembly minority leaders would each appoint 1 member of the legislature from their respective houses. The governor would appoint 2 members to the task force, and the co-chairs of the Joint Finance Committee would appoint 1 member from the public to the task force, and this member would serve as the chairperson. As a side note, the UW Assistant President and the Secretary of DOA and the Legislative Fiscal Bureau would provide staff for the task force. So as written now, that's how the task force would be appointed, how it would be convened, and who would do the staffing.
That helps. Thank you.
And one of the big issues, obviously, would be tuition.
Regent Jew, and then we'll come back around to the other side.
Question on the cuts to the UW system administration. Could you clarify the reduction of the 51 positions? Is that on top of the 25% reduction?
Well, it's not on top of, but it's going to make for a very difficult budget environment. The 25% cut on our GPR funding from the state, that was not increased at all. So, in essence, what the Joint Finance Committee has done is basically said you're going to have to cut 51 to get to that 25. As it turns out, if we look at salary and compensation, we don't need to cut 51 employees to get to that 25% cut. So that cut may, when actualized, be a little bit higher than the 25% because of the 51 position cut that we'll see. Is that sufficiently confusing for you?
Kevin, a second question also. I don't see a mention of the tuition issue for students who are undocumented, high school graduates who are undocumented.
Yeah, the remission for undocumented students was deleted from our budget for any student enrolled to the future. So we will not be able to allow for the remission of those tuitions. And the remission was, instead of charging those students out-of-state tuition, we allow for in-state tuition. So that program under the governor's budget goes away, and Joint Finance did not do anything to bring it back.
Okay, my understanding is it wasn't. I didn't understand it as a remission. I just thought that undocumented students paid in-state tuition.
That's exactly the way it works. The remission is sort of an internal way for us to do accounting for students if they're undocumented, right? And we have some requirements for those undocumented students, and I really should call Frida up here to explain this. In fact, I'm going to ask Frida to explain that.
The language that they used in the budget was that they removed the remission for certain undocumented persons. And as you said, basically what that did was to say that those students would pay in-state tuition. So the remission is that they don't pay the non-res tuition on on top of what the regular resident tuition is. And it was only for those students who, had already been enrolled in Wisconsin high schools, for at least 3 years and had been continuously within the state. So there were certain restrictions around who could actually get it. What that change means now is that students who enroll in the future will not be able to get the resident tuition. They will have to pay non-resident tuition.
Okay, but as part of, does that negate the Regents policy from 2004 that gave the authority to the chancellors to provide that remission?
That does not negate the board's position, which is that our campuses should work with the students, but it does require the starting point then to be non-resident tuition that they're working from, and they don't start with resident tuition.
Right. But the chancellors still have that ability to do that.
Tom Stafford, are you here? This is a legal question. Tom?
He looks like a lawyer.
I think the answer is yes, they can still do that.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Yes.
A little too fast.
Yes, the chancellors have the authority to remit tuition for various reasons, and this could be one of them.
Thank you.
But I guess I'm a little puzzled still. As I was hearing all the unfortunate discussion, it seemed like the will of the governor and the legislature was that if you're a student that is here as an undocumented student, you will not be given you will pay out-of-state tuition. And I would like that to be clarified, because I don't want, through some whatever kind of language here, that we may unintentionally give a false impression that a student could self-declare, and somehow within the system somebody can say, even though this is what the governor and the legislature said, I still have the authority to do this. Is that what you said, Tom, that yes, chancellors can say that, essentially, yes, at my campus, we're still going to do it this way?
I think Frida and I might want to answer this one jointly, but chancellors have authority to remit tuition for needy or worthy students. So there are various ways and reasons and folks you can remit tuition for. So the blanket tuition remission for folks who are undocumented is going away. But chancellors still have authority and discretion to remit tuition for various people for various reasons. And so it's possible that this group of students could benefit from that.
And as I was saying, the starting point, though, is non-resident tuition. So you will be starting at the higher non-resident level for anything that you would want to do. What the previous remission did was say, no, they're not required to pay non-res at all. They would be treated just as a resident, and they would pay resident tuition. This basically says, no, they're non-res, that's what they pay, and then you can work with financial aid or whatever the campus has available as resources to try to reduce that amount. So that's the difference, is the starting point, basically.
Regent Bradley, I think you had a question? Yeah.
No.
No? Okay. Any others? Regent Walsh?
Thank you. We've been asking for these flexibilities as long as I've been on this board. And I remember even back when Jay Smith was president, we sought these flexibilities. The reality to me is that one flexibility is a victory, because any flexibility is a change, and I appreciate the legislature at least approaching it and moving forward on it. But before anybody takes a victory lap over this, we ought to understand that we have a lot longer to go on the flexibilities. And to me, the more important issue that we face today is the unfortunate fact that we weren't at the table when a $250 million cut was negotiated. And I have a question for Frida and Mike. when we compare this $250 million cut to the one in 2002, and I know we had a lot more flexibility on tuition then, what is the percentage of our budget compared to 2002? Do you recall what it was? Was it about 250 over $4 billion?
I don't have the exact percentages, but as we looked at it at that point in time, there were some automatic offsets to the tuition reduction, the GPR reductions that we had in the...
Well, here, let me make the question simpler. What is the percentage of our budget being cut today versus 2002 when we had the other big cut?
The percentage reduction is about 11%.
Versus 2002?
2002 was probably around the same thing as a gross reduction to GPR, but there were some tuition offsets that significantly reduced the impact.
Before the tuition offsets, if you recall.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. But the other big difference, Frida, is that we had tremendous tuition flexibilities in 2002 that allowed us to backfill almost half of that.
Right. The net reduction that we had as a system after the tuition offset was about $40 million.
Okay.
That was the ongoing reduction, and to basically the same base that we had at that point in time. So the ongoing impact is significantly different when you look at what happened in 03-05 versus what this $125 million is, because that's a continuing $125 million GPR reduction.
Right, and I said 2002. It was for 2005, right? Well, that's our challenge. I mean, we're now faced with something that we didn't have a seat at the table on, and now we have to solve it, and it's going to be a challenge for all of us as well as everyone in the state and their own issues. But the tragedy was we weren't at the table.
Any other questions on the overall budget presentation? We're going to move on into some specific telecommunications issues then, if there are none. Oh, okay, I got a couple of chancellors over here. Chancellor Wells?
Just to, again, remind us kind of on the same conversation Regent Walsh was on, that there's a $90 million reduction in take-home pay for GPR relief, which is also added on top of what we didn't have to face in 2005. Second point, when the chancellors and President Riley met with the governor early on, when he gave us the courtesy to give us a heads up of what was going on, he made it very clear in that meeting that if we were able eventually to get support from the legislature for all campuses to have management leadership flexibilities, he would support that. So I'm very pleased that he said that at the time, and I surely hope that he follows through with that as this goes through the process. And then, Mike, the last thing, I also want to take this time, I'm very appreciative of what our legislative leadership has done as well. It means they're good first steps, and we have a lot more to go. But I also want to remind us that our third-party advocates, particularly the Chambers of Commerce around the state representing over 7,000 businesses, were very supportive of the Wisconsin-IDEA partnership. And part of that was because they felt there was a commitment to the local economies to give them a chance to compete for the procurement business of the campuses. So we've got kind of a first step on that, but there's a long way to go there. And Mike, you said that we have to work out the details of what procurement expenditures that are unique to universities mean. And I'll use my favorite one, and I don't know how unique it is, probably only in volume. But in the UW-Oshkosh, Tom Sunlight and his colleagues looked at what we pay for garbage bag liners every year. And being one of the larger cities in Wisconsin, we pay about $90,000 a year. And he and his colleagues went up and figured out we could save $20,000 in that expenditure alone. So I think maybe garbage bag liners are unique to universities. So we're going to make that argument to make sure that our local business people have a chance to get our business and keep good competition to keep costs down.
Thank you. Yes, Chancellor Gall.
Very quickly, I prefer the word responsibility on tuition, not flexibility, and I think that the Board of Regents should have that responsibility, and this bill seems to have a mixed signal in that it deletes the language, but then turns right back around and says, we're going to tell you what tuition has to be. Maybe you would have put it at 5.5%. We don't know that, but I think it's important to underscore how the region should have that responsibility. That is something that you do very well. I don't think it's something that legislators, frankly, are qualified to do because they don't understand the dynamics of what we do. So I hope that you will continue to talk about that. I suspect the governor understands that because the proposal for Madison, he was willing to give them that responsibility. So maybe it's a matter of educating other legislators about the importance of this particular piece, because as Regent Walsh has established very well, this is the key resource issue. The flexibilities are wonderful in terms of we can manage our resources better, but the big cut and the cap on tuition is going to diminish those very resources at a time when we at least need to maintain them and hopefully grow them moving forward.
Thank you, Chancellor Gao. I think, again, that's a strong point we'll all need to make in the discussion with the task force on tuition authority. And back to Chancellor Wells' comments, I think we should really thank those third parties all around the state, not only chambers of commerce, but regional economic development agencies, county boards of supervisors, extension boards who came forward and made a very strong case that all of our campuses needed the flexibilities. Oh, yes, Regent Wingate.
I just really quickly wanted to say, just comment on the 17-member task force, and I just wanted to say how important I think it is, either through the members we have that will be serving on that task force, or however we get influence into that somehow students are consulted and their voice is heard within that task force, because after today, I won't be on this board anymore. There won't, and who knows how long it will be till a student is appointed onto this board. And so making sure that they're still connected in a way to that process is incredibly important to me. And I know many ways that you can stay connected with them. And so I would be helpful, and I know you guys know who to contact too. So.
Thank you. We certainly will consult with students as we go through the task force process. Well, as you've heard already, there are some new provisions that were added to the budget that pose a serious threat on the telecommunications side to WISNet, the nonprofit consortium that serves all UW campuses, hundreds of PK-12 schools, public libraries, hospitals, technical colleges, private colleges, and other members. This same legislative language also threatens in very harmful ways several grant-funded projects, including the Metropolitan Unified Fiber Network project led by UW-Madison, and I'd add vital to Madison's eminence as a leading research university. And it threatens also the building community capacity through broadband project led by UW Extension. So to provide more information about these budget impacts, I'll ask Vice Chancellor Darrell Bazell from UW-Madison and then Chancellor Ray Cross from UW Extension to say a few words. Lead off with Darrell. Welcome, Darrell.
Great. Thank you, President Riley and Board of Regents. The action taken by the Joint Committee on Finance on Friday was certainly unexpected and surprising, to say the least. We spent every moment since that time looking into the situation, really trying to understand the implications of this budget amendment. And what we're seeing thus far is certainly far from a pretty picture. In fact, it's really difficult to overstate the potential negative implications of the budget amendment that we would have in our billion-dollar research enterprise at UW-Madison. What we found is that this amendment could, and perhaps would, render our research impossible, because it would eliminate current access to broadband and other services designed for, and with the capacity needed to conduct the research that we need. Services through WISNet, I think, as many of you know, was started about 20 years ago at a time when there was no other provider. No other telecommunication company could provide the service or would provide it. The type of high-speed connectivity needed for our academic research and outreach mission. Some of the types of networks that we would probably be prohibited from connecting to would be things like Internet 2, the Boreas Network, Northern Tier Network, and the National Lambda Rail. What kinds of research might be impacted by this? It's probably important to say the kind of research that would be impacted spans the breadth of the campus. This isn't simply about the hard sciences or those involved in computational research. This impacts the social sciences and humanities every bit as much as the hard sciences, if you will, because all those disciplines use these networks to collaborate and to do their research. We know for sure that Internet 2 would not allow a commercial provider to connect to them. So let me just mention briefly at least 3 significant research grants that would be impacted because of our ability to secure the transport for large data sets. The first represents the largest single research grant the campus has ever received, the Ice Cube grant. It's a collaborative project that involves 250 scientists at 36 different institutions. In fact, we just celebrated very recently the completion of that neutrino telescope at the South Pole that was to facilitate that type of research. You're familiar with the $125 million Great Lakes Bioenergy Research Center. We're coming, I think, in the 3rd or 4th year of that grant. That grant is very much threatened because of our potential inability to transmit data on those networks that I referenced. High energy physics, the Large Hadron Collider research in Switzerland could be impacted. This is the collider, this is the world's most powerful particle accelerator, and we're involved with the international research collaboration that could lead to just tremendous discoveries that is put in question because of this legislation. Even if commercial telecommunication provider could participate in these networks other than Internet 2, and we're, again, not sure if they could, there's no question that it would come at a greatly increased cost. In fact, estimates range from a 4-fold to a 10-fold increase in cost from the cost that we're bearing right now. And of course, in the context of the conversation we're having at this moment, this would occur at a time we're all significantly cutting our budgets back, so it couldn't come at a worse time. All of our colleagues on the Committee on Institutional Cooperation, or the CIC, leverage state networks like this, things like WISNET. Every one of our Midwest partners has something like this. The CIC, for those who don't know, it essentially represents the Big Ten and other Midwest research institutions. And of course, this proposal also threatens the viability and stability of high-tech incubators and job creation businesses at our University Research Park. As you know, we have over 3,500 high-paying, high-tech jobs that depend on high-speed connections in order to conduct the research that's vital for job creation in this state. Similarly, incubators and other small businesses across the state that rely on appropriate research networks like the ones I described would also be threatened. So certainly our goal, along with system administration and our other partners, is to find a way to reverse this very harmful piece of legislation, not just for the betterment of research on our campus and throughout the state, but again, as that then translates into job creation for our state, I think it's vital that we find a way to reverse the potential harmful impacts of this budget amendment. So thank you for the opportunity to share a couple of thoughts on President Riley.
Thank you, Darrell. And let me ask that we have Ray talk a little bit about his piece of this and then come back with questions for both. And we also have the provost from Madison here, Paul DeLuca. If he wants to get in on that, that'd be great too. So, Ray?
Good morning. About a year and a half ago, Extension was involved with 4 communities. Those communities included Chippewa Valley, which included 3 different counties, Eau Claire, Chippewa, and Dunn, the community of Platteville, Superior, and Wausau, to help them develop a grant to the federal government to secure the building capacity, community capacity, broadband through broadband project under the Department of Commerce. We also had a second grant involved in that to help private companies who provided services through broadband to increase their business. Last August, we were awarded a total of $32.3 million in grants from the federal government to accomplish that. We competed with a number of other entities from around the country to secure that. And we partnered not only with the University of Wisconsin, obviously, but the Department of Transportation, the Wisconsin Educational Communication Board, WISNET, which is an incredibly important part of this, and CCI and their partners as well. Since we were merely facilitating or coordinating this effort, our partners have already, in this process, invested over $2 million in materials, jobs, and contracts with other vendors. What exactly does this grant do? These grants build over 600 miles of high-capacity fiber optic networks, principally in 4 cities, but they also serve several nearby rural communities that currently have no access. This fiber will not directly compete or connect with any business or homes. Instead, it will serve hospitals, local governments, municipalities, educational institutions, libraries, and public safety operations. All other telecommunication companies, including AT&T, were invited to be partners but chose not to participate. What will the impact if this section of this legislation passes, if this omnibus motion passes into legislation? We'll be forced to return a major portion of that $33 million. The irony is that it is not costing the state of Wisconsin anything. It's one thing to return $800 million because it's going to cost us some money. This is not costing Wisconsin anything. Furthermore, without competing with the private sector, we're adding almost 500 direct jobs and another 1,500 indirect jobs, having an impact on 39 communities and 182 institutions. Currently, the state of Wisconsin ranks 43rd in connectivity to broadband systems, high-speed data transmission systems. It's not just that we're only 43rd, we're dropping in ranking because we aren't doing things like this. If this passes, it will dramatically reduce high-speed broadband access within Wisconsin communities and dramatically impact our cost. It will go up sizably. You heard Darrell say that it would go up 4 to 10-fold. It will be similar in our case. It will limit economic development in these areas, in these communities, dramatically because most of future economic development is centered around high-speed data and Internet access. And ironically, it will decrease the profits of those companies that are opposed to this effort. This is serious. Paragraphs 23 through 26 need to be changed, if not eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Questions? Regent Walsh.
I have 2 questions, and it's for both Darrell, for both of you. Is the research issue distinguishable or separable from the service to the 4 communities, Chippewa, Superior, Wausau, and Platteville, and also to the educational systems that the old well, I won't get into that, but are these distinguishable?
You certainly could look at those issues differently. The service to local communities, of course, are tied to the grant that is described. The thing that impacts what I spoke about was that it is a provision that essentially would not allow us to continue to partner with WISNET or participate in any nonprofit network like Internet 2 or the like.
So could they have written this stealth attack in a way that it would have not have impacted the research, but yet stopped what Extension is doing, the grant?
I think it's possible to see what Ray's thoughts are.
I'm not sure if they could have, but what they did do, Regent Walsh, is I think if this passes, it will remove the University of Wisconsin at Madison from being a Research 1 institution. It will dramatically reduce their ability to do research and interface with area research institutions as well. Now, as it relates to the broadband access, which is separate in the language, could they separate that? Yes. We're arguing that they obviously should not.
I'm very familiar with the non-research issue here because that's the industry I work in. The second question I have, and I don't know the answer to it, is Representative, I think it's Nygren today, has a big press release out about Section 36.11, parent 49, and whether or not those UW system can be involved in certain activities in this area. I don't want to repeat it. What is our response to that? And Tom, I don't mean to put you on the spot because I just saw it over the internet. Am I quoting that statute right?
Regent Walsh, that's right. This isn't the first time this argument's been raised. This has been something that's been raised over the past few months since the grant was received. So we've looked at that language and we've taken the position that the activities that we would engage in under the broadband grant do not violate that section.
Okay.
It's within our mission. The community area networks that are actually created, they're nonprofits within those entities that actually do the things that we're prohibited to do in our statutes. We've taken the position that we are arm's length from that, and that the activities we would engage in under the extension grant do not violate that section. So you're comfortable with what we're doing? Okay. We've taken that position for quite a while now.
Okay.
Regent Davis.
To piggyback on a comment of a colleague, David Walsh, this issue seems to be one of those that shame on whomever for not having us at the table. As a matter of courtesy, just to even understand the impact of whatever decision this was, and I won't speculate on why and who this limitation is in support of, but we'll say that it's really a shame that we were not at the table. I'm perceiving, since everybody's talking about this was a big surprise, to even understand the impact on the state of Wisconsin. And in that regard, my question then is, what is our strategy to be effective at enlightening on the impact?
Well, let me say a few things, and then perhaps Michael or Darrell or others who were involved in a meeting yesterday morning on this will want to chime in as well, and Ray, too. But I think our strategy, broadly speaking, will be our third-party approach to this. That is, we have partners, many of whom were mentioned by Darrell and by Ray, who are very interested in the university's being able to continue to do the good things it's doing for the state of Wisconsin, and that ranges from research partners to businesses who want to see the university develop products and services that they can use, to local towns, municipalities, hospital leadership, schools leadership. Regent Evers might want to comment on this as well. Nonprofits of all kinds that benefit from the work the university is trying to do. So through the good offices of our chancellors around the state who have contacts with the local folks in those areas who benefit from these kinds of projects, we really need to have them speak up to our elected officials and explain why what we're trying to do here is of great benefit to the people of Wisconsin and why we should be able to continue to do it. And let me say, we really believe that in the long run, what we're doing here will create jobs and will be good for the for-profit companies that play in this realm as well. I don't know if anybody else. Yes, Paul. Why don't you come over and join us? Okay.
I think this is on. I want to interject a few points here, and I wore my special tie today. This tie is actually from CERN, and it's from the Hadron Collider facility. And this is the largest threat I've seen to our enterprise since I've been here. You need to understand that the entire Internet, the very protocols that run on the Internet, were created by the high-energy physics community in the 70s and 80s. The World Wide Web was created at CERN in the late 70s and early 80s, and we're not using this as a commodity. This is actually a tool by which we do research and scholarship. The traffic that's on this kind of WISC-net is completely different than the traffic that's on anything else. And it would be virtually impossible for us to execute some of the things we do without access to it. For example, NSF has data sharing agreements that are baked into their proposals by which we have to provide the data that results from those experiments in the form of Internet 2. Internet 2 will not be allowed to run on some of these. It's not simply a matter of pulling dark fiber And it's the protocols, the data compression, the access to that that is critical. This is a serious threat if WISNet goes down.
Can I ask Paul a question?
Yes, David.
Paul, I don't know if this is working. Paul, what's the history of your dialogue with the alternative telecommunications carriers? Because this is so clearly a surprise, but likewise so clearly a simple solution. It shouldn't be stopped because there isn't any alternative for you. But where did this come from that suddenly go after the research piece versus the community piece?
I'm just speculating. I have actually no factual information, and maybe Darrell could expand on it. But I think WISNet was just swept up into the dialogue because it was viewed as a commodity commercial aspect that the university, UW system, was providing in direct competition. I don't think any awareness of actually what WISNet is, for example. And it was just consumed and swept up into the discussion based on the broadband push into underserved communities.
And DoIT, the same issue as with DoIT, too.
Pardon me?
They didn't understand what DoIT did.
No, right. WISNet is simply purchasing network services from DoIT. I mean, there's no subsidization of that whatsoever on the part of DoIT.
Thanks, Paul. Regent Evers.
Yeah, I would just like to suggest that if this is an outrageous proposal, I won't pull any punches. It will cost our school districts probably $6 million more than they had budgeted for these services, and that's on top of $800 million of cut and $1 billion with a B of revenue limit authority. We've spoken up around this, and we'll continue to do this. But I will tell you the forces that are behind this are strong, and we need to be up front on this. It's outrageous.
I think, we have some reason to believe, and you can tell just by the complexity of the conversation we're having, that lots of legislators did not understand the implications of this. So we're hopeful that as they hear this dialogue, as they hear from people in their districts, from all the partners that we have out across the state who have a stake in Madison's continuing to be a preeminent international research university in getting these kinds of broadband connections to our schools and hospitals and local governments, that the legislators, when they hear from those people, and they have started to, will turn this around. It's a very serious issue. Darrell or Ray, anything else to add? Okay.
Do we know the time frame we have?
Pardon me?
I mean, realistic time frame that we're talking of rallying the troops around this?
Next week.
That's what I thought. Next week, right.
Next week, yes.
The vote will be Tuesday. I just want to add, I think it's paragraph 24 or 25, also includes telecommunications services. So our ICS operations will be dramatically curtailed by this as well, because we'll be forbidden to be a participant in that as well.
I'll just leave you with one last thought. If this legislation stands as is, we'll be the only research universities in the entire country that would not be allowed to participate in some of these networks we described. We can't let that happen.
Mm-hmm. And as we sit on the Milwaukee campus, Chancellor Lovell mentioned that their research activity now up to $70 million or so a year. This will have very deleterious effects on this campus, too, now and going forward if it were to stand. So we assure you we will work very hard over the weekend and the next several days to influence a turnaround here. Regent Crane.
Just building on Danae's comment and yours, I think there's a role for each of us as well, and that we need to take that very seriously right now.
Mm-hmm. I think that would help if you contacted your local legislators and important people in your areas as well on this issue.
To that end, I sure could use some help. If it's that short a turnaround, if there's some couple of bullet points, somebody can send an email.
Okay.
David?
Okay. On the way. Check
then we
mail.
can contact. I mean, I enjoy getting steered in the right direction.
And
so
who
to speak.
else to connect with?
Exactly.
Right. Well, In your term on the board, I've never thought of you as being steered.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Regent Smith.
Is there even a chance we could do a resolution today or tomorrow on this? I mean, I think it's important enough for everybody.
That's a
saying
really
what
good
the
point.
superintendent is saying to everybody.
Really good
We really ought to take a stand on this. As a board, I think.
Absolutely.
Oh, so we need a notice?
I
Can
think
we
can
get
do that,
something drafted up?
Regent Smith.
Yeah.
And I think we could potentially have such a resolution drafted and for consideration by the board as early as tomorrow.
That was my intent.
Regent Vasquez, thank you.
I understand, and I appreciate all that we're talking about here and why we need to act on this, but I guess from my point of view, one of the things that I find rather frustrating, because I saw it in another area, and that had to do with the counties and the road construction, road repairs, that if it was 100,000 or more, it had to go to the private sector. And I guess where I'm going with that is this something that we as a system need to look at and say, because it seems to me that seems to be a motivating factor. It's diminish public and grow private for profit. And is that something that we need to, as a system, be looking at so that we don't be getting caught by surprise? Because that seems to be the underlying, that if there's a comparable for-profit sector and the public sector is doing it, switch it over, regardless of. And I guess I'm encouraging us to be a little bit more thoughtful than just reacting to every time one of these comes up, or try to get ahead of the curve and help people understand that, yes, there may be a for-profit, but it's not as simple as just switching it over. You need to understand the consequences so that we don't find ourselves at the next region meeting saying, and here's the next issue that we're now having to salvage because there's a desire to move it over to. And I think that seems to be kind of an underlying direction that we may need to think about.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions, comments on these issues? All right. Seeing none, thank you all for a very good discussion. We will be working very hard with the legislature and legislative staff, the governor, governor's staff, and other of our partners on these issues over the next several days, and we'll keep you well apprised. I think with that, President Pruitt, I can turn it back over to you.
You can, but I would like to make a note before you start packing up here, folks. I have been informed that if this board is interested in doing a motion on this topic, we need to do it now for reasons that Secretary Radu can explain, but basically related to the sort of public notice of this meeting. So I would like to encourage, if it is the will and interest of this board, to make a motion for someone to make one at this point, and do your best. Would be my only suggestion. I would suggest potentially keeping it relatively simple and straightforward. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion on this topic at this point?
I'll make the motion.
Regent Smith.
Urge that I guess it's the amendment, the telecommunication services amendment, that this board goes on record opposed to that, as making it as simple as we can.
Okay. It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second, with a lot of whereases.
Right. I thought.
Whereas?
A lot of whereases.
They have to work on filling in the blanks later. Any further discussion? Anyone want to? Secretary Radu, do we have the content of the motion?
What I have is urge that the board go on record as opposed to the amendment on telecommunications services in the omnibus budget.
Correct.
Bill? Okay.
Brent?
Yes.
Would it be possible to delegate to Chuck the ability to add whereas clauses and flesh out the motion as long as it has the conclusion?
Be glad to delegate that to President Pruitt.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Thank you so much. Any further conversation? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying.
Was there a second?
There was a second. It was moved and it was seconded by Regent Bartel. Is there? No? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is agreed to. Thank you, and thank you, Jane, for pointing that out. We are now going to break for lunch, which is a half hour late. We're going to have a luncheon in Ballroom East. May I suggest that then we'll push back the committees the equivalent half hour so that the Education Committee will be meeting here at 1:30. There will be a joint meeting of the Business, Finance, and Audit and Capital Planning Committee at 1:30 in the Fireside Lounge. Yeah, it's currently 1, but I'm suggesting we push it to 1:30 to accommodate the lunch. Thank you.